Usually when we talk about diagnosing a problem, there is this expectation of like real precision.
Right, yeah.
It's like engineering or medicine. You break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line, the doctor just points at the screen and says, well, there it is. That's the problem.
Exactly. It's binary. It's clean.
It's broken or it's not broken.
Yeah.
And we like that, right? We like things to be visible and easily categorized. But then you step into the world of agriculture. Specifically, if you look at the landscape of UK farming right now, suddenly that x-ray machine is just completely shattered. We are looking at a diagnostic landscape that is, honestly, it's incredibly murky.
It is the absolute definition of muddy waters. I mean, there's no single jagged line to point to. The fractures are literally everywhere, and they are moving.
Yeah. And that is exactly why we are here today.
Well,
welcome to this deep dive. Today, we have a very specific, I'd say, critical mission for you listening.
Okay.
We are taking a comprehensive, microscopic look at the May 2026 issue of Farming Monthly National.
which is quite a read.
It really is. And our goal is to cut through all the noise and figure out exactly what the near future looks like for UK farmers. Because when you open up these sources, the pressures are coming from every conceivable angle.
Every angle.
We are talking about global geopolitical shocks, brand new domestic legislation,
Yeah.
the sheer unpredictability of the weather, and massive, rapid shifts in technology.
Yeah, just imagine staring down a predicted loss of tens of thousands of pounds for the year while, simultaneously trying to figure out if you should buy an electric tractor or how to stop some microscopic virus from wiping out your herd.
It's an overwhelming convergence of crises. But what is truly fascinating about diving into a publication like this is that the answers, well, the survival strategies aren't just sitting neatly in the editorial opinion columns.
No, not at all.
The real roadmap to surviving 2027 is actually woven throughout the entire fabric of the magazine, right down to the commercial solutions and the advertisements. The tools farmers are buying tell us exactly what they're most afraid of and how they plan to fight back.
I love that approach. So let's plunge right into the biggest storm on the horizon. Because before we even look at what is happening in the soil, we really have to look at what is happening in the world.
Right.
Because the global shockwaves are hitting the local farm gate incredibly hard right now. We need to talk about the CAAV warning.
Yes, the Central Association of Agricultural Valuers. Now, these are the people who look at the cold, hard physical economics of land and rural businesses. They aren't exactly prone to exaggeration.
No, they deal in numbers, and their warning is stark. They are looking at the current crisis in the Gulf, and they are pointing to a terrifying tipping point in global oil supplies by early June 2026.
Which is right around the corner.
Exactly. The secretary and advisor to the CAAV, Jeremy Moody, he laid this out very clearly. Because of the physical blocking of 20% or more of world oil supplies, global oil levels could be critically low by the end of May.
Wow.
And effectively exhausted by the end of June. He is urgently advising farmers to prioritize fuel specifically for food production.
It's a terrifying timeline. And, it translates directly into a financial crisis for the individual farm. The projections for the harvest are genuinely staggering. For harvest 2026, they are predicting an average loss of 56 pounds per acre.
Right.
But then looking ahead to harvest 2027, that projected loss skyrockets to 139 pounds per acre.
Let's scale that up so we can truly grasp the impact. If you are running a standard 500-acre arable farm, those numbers equate to a 28,000-pound loss in 2026.
Ouch.
And a 69,500-pound loss in 2027. That is nearly 70,000 pounds of capital just vanishing.
It's gone.
And it's driven by the input costs. Red diesel, the lifeblood of heavy farm machinery, has soared from 65 pence per liter a while back to almost 140 pence per liter now. Nitrogen fertilizer is up 53% compared to last year.
So if you are a farmer reading this and you are staring down the barrel of a 69,500 pound loss, what do you actually do? You can't just plant nothing. The bank still wants their mortgage payment.
No, you have to keep moving.
Right. This is where we see the marketplace reacting to the panic. I was looking at the solutions farmers are reaching for, and there's a massive push toward alternative liquidity. For example, the presence of companies like UK Agricultural Finance. They are stepping in to offer short to medium-term secured lending for working capital and business restructuring.
And that is a direct response to this macroeconomic storm. When a farm is facing a 139-pound per acre loss, traditional high street banks get very nervous.
Oh, they pull the plug immediately.
Yeah, they might pull back on overdrafts or refuse to extend credit. The benefit of specialized agricultural lending is that it provides a lifeline of liquidity. It allows a farm to restructure its existing debt or secure the vital working capital needed just to buy the incredibly expensive seed and fuel to get the next crop in the ground.
It is literally about surviving the cash flow valley.
Exactly, buying time.
And speaking of buying time, if the CAV is warning that oil could be exhausted by June, you physically need a way to hoard what you need. That explains the prominence of infrastructure solutions like Neil Vesey storage tanks. They're manufacturing these massive, fully enclosed, bunded storage tanks that hold up to 22,000 gallons.
A bunded tank essentially has a tank within a tank, preventing catastrophic environmental spills. But the real benefit here is operational security.
Right, the hoarding aspect.
If you believe the supply chain is going to snap in June, having a 22,000-gallon tank on your property allows you to safely and legally stockpile fuel right now. It insulates your harvest against potential national rationing or sudden violent price spikes.
You are essentially turning your farmyard into an independent fuel reserve.
Exactly. But to buy that fuel or to restructure that debt, you need capital immediately. And if the bank says no, you have to look around the yard. There's a very simple but telling offering from DJ Lee's Used Machinery. They are just broadcasting like, we want all types of used machinery and we pay realistic prices.
It highlights the rapid recycling of capital, doesn't it? If you have an older secondary tractor or a baler sitting idle in the shed, it's not making you money.
Right.
In a good year, you might keep it as a backup. But when you are facing a massive deficit, turning that dormant metal into liquid cash within 48 hours could literally be the difference between making payroll for your staff or going under.
The macroeconomy is forcing these very aggressive micro-level adaptations.
It's all about plugging the holes in the ship. But beyond the global supply chain breaking down, these farmers are also trying to navigate a completely shifting domestic political landscape. And, we have to look at this impartially because it's a lot. Let's look at the legislative side. The King's speech laid out a heavily packed program.
Oh, massive.
We've got the European Partnership Bill, the Energy Independence Bill, the Police Reform Bill, and the Clean Water Bill.
It is a massive wave of new regulation and ambition. And the National Farmers Union, the NFU, responded to this through their president, Tom Bradshaw. He emphasized that the industry desperately needs a partnership with the government to navigate these bills. But his main point of contention, his real urgent demand, was for clarity on the SFI 26.
Right, the Sustainable Farming Incentive. This is the post-Brexit subsidy scheme that pays farmers for environmental practices rather than just, land area.
Exactly. The problem is that the first application window for SFI 26 opens in June, and farmers currently have very little concrete information about the actual mechanics of the scheme.
That's crazy.
They are being asked to commit to environmental actions that will dictate their income for years without seeing the full rulebook. You simply cannot plan a resilient business when the foundation of your government support is still a mystery.
It's like being asked to sign a contract in the dark. But on the flip side, there is some very concrete positive legislative news regarding the UK-EU reset, specifically affecting Northern Ireland.
Yeah, some good news for once.
The Environment Secretary, Emma Reynolds, announced the removal of export health certificates for most food and drink goods, moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland.
This is a massive unblocking of the domestic supply chain. To understand the benefit here, you have to understand the burden. Those export health certificates were essentially a paperwork tax.
Right.
They required veterinary sign-offs and complex declarations, costing businesses between 80 and 200 pounds for every single shipment.
Wow. If you're sending multiple trucks a week, that is a devastating overhead.
Precisely. Over the last 3 years, it is estimated that this friction has cost businesses between 13 million and 32 million pounds. By removing these certificates, the government is radically smoothing trade, protecting the internal market, and fundamentally lowering the cost of doing business.
Which should theoretically help bring down food prices at the consumer end.
That's the hope, yeah.
Speaking of the consumer end, we also see the Prime Minister throwing weight behind an initiative to treble the amount of surplus food made available for redistribution. WRAP, the Waste and Resources Action Program, is heavily supporting this. Their CEO, Catherine David, pointed out a staggering statistic. Home is where most food waste actually occurs, and it is costing an average family of 4 about £1,000 a year.
It's a profound disconnect, isn't it? You have farmers facing 70,000-pound losses to pull a crop out of the ground, fighting global oil shortages to do it, and then a massive percentage of that calorie output is just thrown in the bin at the consumer level.
It's wild when you put it like that.
Troubling surplus redistribution is a necessary push to treat food as the precious, highly carbon-intensive resource that it is.
It really puts the farmer's struggle into perspective. But let's pivot to something that directly impacts the daily psychology and safety of the farmer on their own land: rural crime.
Yeah, this is a big one.
The NFU Mutual released figures showing that agricultural vehicle thefts cost £7 million in 2024 alone. But the legislative landscape is finally shifting to fight back. The Crime and Policing Bill just received royal assent, and it includes a provision that feels like a game changer. Police now have the power to enter premises without a warrant to recover electronically tracked stolen agricultural equipment.
This is a monumental shift in law enforcement capability. When a tractor or a GPS dome is stolen, time is the absolute enemy. These organized gangs can move machinery to ports or chop shops in a matter of hours.
You're so fast.
Previously, if a farmer's GPS tracker pinged from inside a suspicious warehouse, the police often had to wait to secure a warrant before entering. By the time they got it, the machinery was gone.
I can't imagine the frustration of literally watching your 100,000-pound tractor on your smartphone screen, knowing exactly where it is and being told you have to wait.
The psychological toll is huge. NFU Vice President Robin Munt spoke about this. Rural crime chips away at a farmer's mental resilience. It makes them feel violated and completely powerless. Allowing police to kick the door in immediately when a tracker pings disrupts these organized criminal networks and provides a massive injection of confidence back into the farming community.
And we are seeing the results of aggressive policing. The Hampshire Country Watch Rural Crime Task Force, working alongside the DVSA, recently seized over 574,550 pounds in stolen goods.
That's a massive haul.
But the industry isn't just relying on the police, right? They are actively hardening the equipment itself. The CEA, the Construction Equipment Association, is starting an independent tender process for the CESAR scheme contract, ready for its renewal in 2028.
The CESAR scheme is brilliant. It's the official equipment security and registration scheme. It uses microdots, transponders, and highly visible warning decals to mark the machinery. The benefit is that it acts as a proven, highly effective visual and electronic deterrent against theft. What's really interesting is that they've recently extended it to include an emissions compliance verification system.
Wait, so it tracks emissions too?
Yes, it provides a quick visual way to identify a machine's engine emissions stage. So it's evolving from just an anti-theft tool into a holistic system for tracking, securing, and validating the environmental compliance of farm machinery across the country.
Okay, so we have established that global supply chains are squeezed, credit is tight, and machinery is a target. This perfectly explains why the cost of inputs, the literal building blocks of food like fertilizer, are skyrocketing. Let's look closely at the soil.
Let's do it.
Ammonium nitrate fertilizer is currently trading above 525 pounds per ton. That is a 30% increase against pre-conflict prices.
And this price shock is forcing a radical global rethink of how we source and apply nutrients. We are seeing massive infrastructural moves to protect supply. For example, ICL Growing Solutions has just opened a colossal 7-acre, 30,000-ton water-soluble fertilizer plant in India.
Why build it in India if they were supplying a global market?
Geopolitical bypass. By establishing production in India, they are physically bypassing the shipping bottlenecks and immense risks of moving cargo through the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, that makes sense.
They are trying to immune the supply chain against Middle Eastern conflicts. The goal is to secure global food security by reducing dependence on highly vulnerable cross-border shipping routes for essential fertilizers.
It totally makes sense on a macro level. But on a local individual farm level, you can't just wait for a plant in India to solve your problems. Farmers have to be ruthlessly smart about what they are actually applying to their fields. There is a fascinating deep dive in the sources about Northern Ireland's soil health. Apparently, around 40% of farm fields over there already have adequate or even high levels of soil phosphorus, and yet farmers are still applying it.
It is a devastating misallocation of capital and resources. There is an estimated excess of about 7,000 tons of phosphorus going onto Northern Irish farms every single year.
7,000 tons.
Yeah. And the consequences are not just financial, they are environmental. That excess phosphorus washes off the fields and is a primary contributor to the severe water quality issues we are seeing in places like Lough Neagh.
So why is this happening? I have to ask, are farmers just stuck in this muscle memory loop of applying phosphate because, that's what my grandfather did, that's what we've always done? Or is there a genuine lack of soil testing data available to them?
It is a combination of old habits and complex science. Historically, farmers bought standard NPK blends, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. You just bought the bag and spread it. Even with modern soil testing showing high phosphorus, breaking that habit is hard. But the real issue is that while they are over-applying phosphorus, they are severely neglecting potash.
What exactly does potash do, and why are they short of it?
Grass contains nearly as much potash as it does nitrogen. If you are a dairy or beef farmer, you are taking multiple cuts of silage off a field every year to feed your cows over winter. Every single time you harvest that heavy, wet grass, you are physically stripping massive amounts of potash right out of the soil.
Oh, right, you're taking it away.
If a farmer is applying 100 kilograms of nitrogen to grow the grass, they need to replace a similar amount of potash. When they fail to do that, the soil becomes depleted, and potash becomes the fundamental limiting factor on their yield. They could dump all the expensive nitrogen they want on that field, but without potash, the grass won't grow.
That's throwing money away.
Exactly. So redirecting their budget from unnecessary phosphate to desperately needed potash is the only way to survive these prices.
And to make sure those expensive fertilizers actually get absorbed by the plant, the fundamental soil conditions have to be absolutely perfect. It doesn't matter what you spread if the chemistry of the dirt is wrong. This explains why a product like Limex is so prominent in the adverts. They market themselves as the UK's #1 liming product.
The science of liming is foundational. If your soil pH is too acidic, a chemical reaction occurs in the ground that physically locks up the nutrients. The plant roots literally cannot absorb the expensive synthetic nitrogen or phosphorus you just paid 525 pounds a ton for.
So it's just sitting there.
The benefit of applying Limex is that it corrects the soil pH, turning it slightly more alkaline. This unlocks the soil profile, maximizing the efficiency of every single pound the farmer spends on fertilizer. It stops them from literally throwing money into acidic dirt.
It's all about utilization. And instead of buying synthetic fertilizer at all, many farmers are realizing the gold mine they already have: organic matter, animal manure. We see companies like Bunning pushing their high-spec manure spreaders, specifically the twin vertical auger and the horizontal beater and spinning disc models.
The shtick here is treating manure not as a waste product to get rid of, but as a highly valuable precision fertilizer. The benefit of a high-spec Bunning machine is accuracy. Older spreaders just flung muck everywhere in massive clumps.
Yeah, you've seen it. It just splatters.
These new machines shred the organic matter and spread it in a wide, incredibly uniform pattern. By applying this nutrient-rich organic matter precisely to the areas of the crop that need it, farmers can significantly offset their reliance on purchased synthetic chemicals.
Precision is the name of the game. When you do have to spray liquid chemicals, you absolutely cannot afford waste. Overlap is just burning cash. That's where Nexus Chafer comes in. They are unveiling major enhancements to their crop sprayers, including new e-plumbing and the Sentry 8000 control system.
The benefit of the Nexus Chafer system is the total elimination of waste through digital control. With enhanced rate and section control, the sprayer's computer talks to the GPS. It knows exactly where it has already sprayed, shutting off individual nozzles down to the centimeter to prevent overlap.
Down to the centimeter.
Yes. The chemical goes exactly where the plant is and nowhere else. It protects the environment and the bottom line.
But heavy sprayers and tractors have a downside, right? They weigh a ton. And if the weather is terrible, dragging a huge tractor across a wet field destroys the soil. For those tricky situations, QuadX has launched a specialized liquid fertilizer application system designed specifically for ATVs and UTVs. It's a 230-liter towed model with a 3.5-meter boom.
This is a brilliant, highly adaptable solution. The benefit here revolves around ground pressure. An ATV weighs a fraction of what a tractor weighs. In a season defined by unpredictable, torrential rain, a farmer might only have a narrow 48-hour window of dry weather to apply fertilizer before the crop fails.
And a heavy tractor would just sink.
Exactly. The QuadX system allows them to get out onto the field during those narrow windows without sinking into the mud and causing severe soil compaction. It gives them agility.
I love how the mechanics are adapting.
Yeah.
But let's look at the biology, because there is a massive scientific shift toward biological and organic innovations. The chemistry itself is changing. I was reading about sugar ox. They recently secured a 2.5 million pound investment from the Mosaic Company to develop a biostimulant based on something called trehalose-6-phosphate, or T6P.
The mechanism of T6P is genuinely science fiction level agriculture. T6P is a molecule that naturally regulates how plants utilize sucrose, but normally it's incredibly difficult to get it to cross into the plant cells from the outside. SugarOx has developed a patented delivery technology that allows this molecule to penetrate the cell walls.
Okay, and what happens once it gets inside?
Once inside, it effectively acts as a biological hacker. It inhibits a specific enzyme that signals famine to the plant. When a plant experiences drought or stress, it panics and shuts down grain production to survive.
Oh, wow.
The T6P biostimulant tricks the plant into believing times are good, forcing it to keep moving carbon and nutrients towards filling out the grain. The benefit is a dramatic improvement in both crop yield and quality, even under severe weather stress.
Hacking a plant's famine signals. That is incredible. And this isn't just lab theory, right? We are seeing biologicals produce massive results in actual field trials. Take Soilworks OMF, for example. It's an organo-mineral fertilizer. They ran trials on spring barley at the highly respected Rothamsted Research Facility. The results showed a 27.7% grain yield increase over standard mineral nitrogen. We're talking 9 tons per hectare versus 7.05 tons.
The economics of that are undeniable. At current grain prices, that is roughly an extra 205 pounds per hectare in pure revenue. But honestly, the more profound metric from the Rothamsted trials is what happened beneath the surface. They recorded a staggering 272% increase in microbial biomass in the soil.
Wait, 272%. What exactly does a massive increase in microbial biomass do for the farmer?
Microbes are the engine of the soil. A high microbial biomass means billions of bacteria and fungi are actively breaking down organic matter, fixing natural nitrogen from the air, and releasing nutrients slowly over time so the plant roots can absorb them steadily.
So it's basically a living fertilizer factory.
Exactly. They also secrete substances that bind soil particles together, improving drainage and root penetration. So Soilworks OMF is delivering a short-term financial spike in yield while simultaneously building long-term structural soil health.
With results like that, it is no surprise whatsoever that the organic sector is surging. DEFRA's latest 2025 statistics show that UK organic land is up 7.3%, reaching 540,000 hectares. And Scotland is absolutely leading the charge here, witnessing a 115% rise in land currently in conversion to organic status.
It's a systemic reaction. As the Soil Association points out, farmers are actively seeking systems that completely divorce them from the volatility of synthetic nitrogen, which, as we've said, is heavily reliant on gas from conflict zones. But the Soil Association is also pushing hard on politics. They are calling on England and Wales to introduce fully funded organic action plans, similar to what Scotland has implemented, to provide a stable financial framework and build robust supply chains for organic produce.
And this biological innovation extends to how we feed livestock, too. Origin Fertilizers has introduced a product called Vitagrass. They are literally adding essential trace elements like iodine alongside selenium and cobalt directly into the fertilizer blend.
The benefit of Vitagrass is an incredible optimization of farm labor. Normally, if cattle or sheep are deficient in iodine, a farmer has to physically round up the herd, wrestle them into a crush, and force a mineral bolus down their throats.
That sounds miserable for everyone involved.
It is dangerous, exhausting, time-consuming work. By putting the iodine in the fertilizer, the grass absorbs it, and the farmer treats the livestock simply by letting them graze. It builds the soil's nutrient bank and supplements the animals automatically.
Another great stress-reducing tool is from MJP Supplies. They're heavily promoting their Algifol biostimulant.
The benefit of Algifol is broad-spectrum resilience. It is derived from algae, and it provides crops with enhanced root growth and stress resistance against both extreme heat and waterlogging from heavy rain. Furthermore, it boasts a 2-year shelf life.
That's huge.
It is. It means a farmer can buy it, hold it in the shed without it degrading, and spread their financial investment over 2 distinct growing seasons, all while actively reducing their overall need for synthetic nitrogen.
So if inputs are optimized, we have to look at what is actually being grown. Arable farmers are looking at the sky and looking at global markets, and they are making very tough decisions. Let's examine the global grain picture. The USDA WASDA report recently came out, And it sent shockwaves through the market.
Yes, the WASDE, the World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates, it is the Bible for global crop forecasting. And their latest report forecasts that U.S. wheat production for the 2026-27 season could plunge to its lowest level in 53 years.
53 years. What?
A brutal combination of smaller planted acreage and severe sustained drought across the U.S. plains. The market reacted instantly, spiking Chicago wheat futures by 6%. On top of that, global ending stocks, the reserves left over at the end of the year for major commodities like maize and soybeans, are also projected to be significantly lower.
That kind of high-stakes volatility means UK farmers cannot afford a crop failure. They have to pick winners. And we are currently witnessing a major historic pivot in the UK fields. Farmers are abandoning oilseed rape, commonly known as OSR, and shifting massively toward winter linseed.
That's a huge shift.
OSR is the crop with those bright yellow flowers you see in the summer, but it is currently being absolutely decimated by the cabbage stem flea beetle. I've seen reports of agronomists finding 20 to 30 larvae burrowed inside a single plant stem.
It is an agronomic nightmare. What happens is the adult beetle eats the leaves, but the real damage is the larva. They hatch and hollow out the main stem of the plant from the inside.
Ugh, that's awful.
When the stem is hollow, two things happen. Either a hard frost gets inside and freezes the plant to death, or a strong wind simply snaps the weakened stem in half. If a dry spell hits an infested crop, those OSR plants will just curl up, turn purple, and die.
So they're retreating to winter linseed. Why linseed?
It is a highly strategic defensive pivot. First and foremost, winter linseed is completely unaffected by the cabbage stem flea beetle. The beetle simply has no interest in it.
Well, that solves that problem immediately.
Exactly. That immediately removes the biggest existential threat to the crop. Furthermore, the economics are vastly superior right now. Linseed requires significantly less nitrogen to grow, only about 80 to 120 kilograms per hectare, compared to OSR, which demands a hungry 190 to 200 kilograms. That difference alone saves a farmer roughly 150 pounds per hectare in sheer input costs.
But I have to ask, is OSR doomed? Will it just become a niche memory crop in the UK, or is this just a temporary retreat until science catches up?
It's the multi-million-pound question. The supply chain is panicking. Major players like Frontier Agriculture are actually stepping in to offer OSR de-risking partnerships.
Oh, really? How does that work?
Under these schemes, the cost of the seed is literally waived by the supplier if the crop fails to establish due to beetle damage. They are subsidizing the risk just to keep growers in the game. But with linseed offering such a compelling, low-risk, lower-cost alternative, OSR faces a tremendously tough battle to regain its traditional acreage.
And it isn't just arable crops facing market chaos. The potato sector is currently navigating a full-blown catastrophic crisis for the 2025-2026 season. It has been a nightmare storage season.
It was the perfect storm of oversupply and bad weather. France grew a record-breaking 10 million tons. Germany pulled its largest potato crop in a quarter of a century. The entire European continent was practically awash with potatoes.
And what does that do to the price?
This immense glut crashed the free buy prices down to a devastating 15 euros per ton.
15 euros a ton. That surely doesn't even cover the cost of the diesel to harvest them.
It absolutely doesn't. It is a severe loss-making price. But to make matters worse, the biology turned against the farmers. The autumn harvest was unseasonably warm. This meant that the potato crops went into the dark storage sheds, still holding a lot of field heat. Potatoes are living organisms. That heat broke their natural dormancy period, causing them to start sprouting incredibly early in the storage cycle.
And if your potatoes sprout in storage, the starches convert to sugars, they lose physical weight, the processors reject them, and you lose everything. That explains why the advert for Juno Plant Protection and their flagship product, Biox-M, is so prominent. It's an emergency brake.
Exactly. Biox-M is a naturally occurring volatile oil that acts as a sprout suppressant. It is fogged into the storage sheds. The crucial benefit to the UK farmer right now is preservation of capital. By stopping the sprouting, Biox-M saves the commercial value of their stored potatoes during a massive market glut.
It lets them wait out the bad prices.
Right. It allows the farmer to hold onto their crop, keeping it in perfect condition until the market clears and prices eventually recover. Plus, it's derived from mint, and it sequesters carbon during its growth phase, making the treatment effectively carbon neutral.
Once the market does improve and you are ready to sell those potatoes, you face another crisis: labor. Finding people to physically sort and grade vegetables is incredibly expensive and difficult. We see a combined advert for Tong Engineering and Haith, two giants in crop handling.
The benefit of their technology is pure, ruthless labor efficiency. The magazine highlights a case study where Tong installed a fully integrated optical sorting and grading line for a Scottish seed potato grower. This machine uses cameras and AI to identify defects and sort the crop automatically.
So it's basically doing the work of a whole team of people.
It literally doubled the farm's productivity overnight. Hayth offers similarly trusted, heavy-duty vegetable handling equipment. When manual labor costs are spiraling and workers are scarce, massive capital investment in automation is the only viable way to maintain profit margins.
And for the grain farmers, storage is equally critical. We have Frontier Agriculture partnering with a tech company called Javello. They are currently rolling out digital grain monitoring systems across 500,000 tons of UK storage.
The benefit here is the absolute optimization of energy use and the guarantee of grain quality. Historically, a farmer had to climb into the silo and manually probe the grain to check for heat spots.
Which sounds pretty dangerous, honestly.
It can be. The Javelot digital system uses wireless sensors to provide real-time temperature data to a smartphone. It allows the massive cooling fans to run automatically, but only when precisely necessary. This saves a fortune in electricity while preserving the crop's premium milling or malting value.
But what if you simply don't have enough physical sheds to hold your crop while you wait for the global market prices to bounce back? Graham Heath Construction and Concrete Panel Systems are advertising their highly customizable steel frames and concrete retaining panels.
The benefit they are selling is robust, rapid expansion. Graham Heath is currently offering a complete 1,000-ton grain store from 50,000 pounds. Farmers urgently need to safely house their bumper harvests to ride out these severe market gluts. Engineered steel and heavy-duty concrete paneling provide that necessary secure infrastructure quickly.
And once that massive shed is built and filled with grain, you have to control the internal climate. Perry of Oakley and Agricultural Supply Services are advertising comprehensive solutions. Silos, continuous flow grain drying, and polycool pedestal and high-door ventilation systems.
The benefit of systems like the polycool pedestals and high-door fans is thermodynamics. They are designed to draw the heat out of the grain pile in the quickest possible time at the lowest possible energy cost. By rapidly dropping the temperature of the grain, it completely stops storage insects like weevils from breeding and prevents fungal hotspots from developing.
It absolutely safeguards the financial value of the harvest over long, unpredictable storage periods. So, while the arable guys are looking at the sky, grain moisture, and the USDA reports, the livestock sector is fighting a completely different war. Let's move into the barns and pastures. Livestock farmers are fighting microscopic battles against fast-moving diseases, tightening emission regulations, and feed inefficiency. Let's start with the existential disease threats. The government has radically ramped up its strategy against African and classical swine fever.
African swine fever is a devastating hemorrhagic virus. It has a near 100% mortality rate in pigs. While it thankfully isn't in the UK yet, it is moving across Europe and the government is preparing for the worst. But the new strategy is highly pragmatic. They are introducing a system of restricted zones, zones 1, 2, and 3.
Why zones instead of just shutting everything down?
Because blanket bans destroy the economy of healthy farms. Historically, an outbreak meant a total freeze on all animal movement nationwide. By using risk-based, tiered zoning and specific movement licensing, pigs in lower-risk zones can still be moved to abattoirs for processing, or moved between sheds for welfare reasons to prevent severe overcrowding.
It isolates the virus while allowing the wider industry to maintain vital production cycles and economic biosecurity.
Exactly.
Sheep farmers are facing their own heavy disease burdens, and these are already on the farms. The Royal Veterinary College recently conducted a major study and found that ORF is present on a staggering 88.8% of UK sheep farms.
ORF is a highly contagious viral skin disease. It causes painful, scabby lesions, primarily around the mouths of lambs and the teats of ewes.
That sounds horrific for welfare.
Yeah.
And the economic impact must be significant.
It is. The RVC study found a median treatment cost of £5 per affected lamb. If a lamb has a sore mouth that won't suckle, loses weight, the ewe gets mastitis, and the whole system breaks down. Yet, shockingly, fewer than a quarter of farmers consult a vet about it, and only 34.5% use any form of pain relief.
Wow.
It's also a zoonotic disease, meaning it can easily transmit to humans, causing painful sores on the hands. Though simply wearing gloves during handling significantly reduces that risk.
It's just constant pressure. And the changing climate is making traditional parasite patterns worse. The blowfly season is visibly elongating. It is now running from as early as March all the way deep into November.
Blowfly strike is gruesome. The flies lay eggs in the dirty fleece around the sheep's rear end, and the maggots literally eat the sheep alive. Because the season is extending due to warmer, wetter weather, companies like Heinegger and Elanco are pushing an agronomic shift, which is earlier, cleaner shearing.
You just take the fleece off before the flies get active.
Exactly. Shearing early completely removes the microenvironment where blowflies lay their eggs. And using high-quality professional clippers like the battery-powered Heinegger XL allows farmers to perform quick dagging, shearing away just the dirty wool around the tail to remove the exact damp environment that maggots thrive in.
Inside the barn and inside the cow's digestive system itself, there is another hidden silent threat: mycotoxins. Rolac runs a testing service called MycoCheck. They analyzed 776 feed samples from across farms, and they found mycotoxins present in 93.2% of them.
Mycotoxins are highly toxic compounds produced by stressed molds growing on the forage or grain. When a cow eats them, the danger isn't necessarily instant death. It's a silent, chronic erosion of performance. Mycotoxins suppress the immune system, erode milk yields, drastically reduce feed conversion efficiency, and cause poor fertility and early embryonic loss.
Like a slow poison draining the farm's profit.
Exactly. Volac's solution is to add triple-action remediators, like their product Ultrasorb, directly into the feed ration. These additives physically bind to and enzymatically degrade a wide spectrum of these toxins in the cow's gut before they can be absorbed into the bloodstream.
With all these microscopic threats, frontline defense and hygiene are critical. That explains the advert for Steve's Birchall Poultry Services. They supply heavy-duty disinfectants and contract cleaning services.
The benefit of hiring a professional cleaning service is guaranteed: unbroken biosecurity. Whether a farmer is dealing with stringent swine fever protocols, highly pathogenic avian influenza threats, or just routine disease buildup, having livestock sheds professionally power washed and chemically disinfected between flocks is the only proven way to break the cycle of rapidly spreading microscopic diseases. It's an insurance policy.
Out in the summer pastures, flies are a relentless menace to cattle and sheep. Rumenco is advertising their Suplex garlic blocks.
We touched on blowfly worry earlier, but general fly worry is a massive economic drain. The physical stress and constant movement of cows trying to escape biting flies burns energy. It can literally cut live weight gains in beef cattle by 0.3 kilograms a day and drop dairy milk yields by half a liter per cow per day.
That adds up fast across a herd of 200 cows over a 4-month summer. How does a garlic block stop that?
The benefit of the Rumenco garlic block is ingenious. It acts as a systemic, natural insect repellent. The animals lick the nutritional block, ingest the garlic compounds, and then excrete those volatile compounds through their skin pores and breath.
They literally sweat garlic.
Basically, yeah. It creates an invisible barrier that deters the flies. Crucially, it does this without the farmer needing to spend hours manually rounding up the herd to apply expensive chemical pour-on insecticides. It is a massive labor saver.
Let's look at the dairy sector specifically, because the technological leaps here are genuinely mind-blowing. Delaval is expanding its famous VMS V300 robotic milking system, but they've added near-infrared spectroscopy sensors.
This is truly cutting-edge diagnostic technology. As the milk flows through the robot, the infrared light analyzes it in real time. It accurately tests the milk for fat, protein, and lactose levels at every single milking, and it does this without using any chemical reagents or consumables.
So the farmer gets a complete nutritional breakdown of the milk twice a day, automatically.
Better than that, it acts as an early warning medical system. By constantly monitoring the specific ratio of fat to protein in the milk, the software can identify metabolic disorders like subclinical ketosis incredibly early, often days before the cow shows any physical symptoms. It allows the farmer to tweak the diet of that specific cow instantly. It turns the milking robot into a real-time health diagnostic tool.
And speaking of diagnostics, we have to talk about the Hanskamp cow toilet. It's launching at LAMA 2026. I still cannot get over the name, but the environmental chemistry behind it is huge.
The name is funny, but the science is highly serious. The primary environmental issue with dairy farming is ammonia gas emissions. Ammonia isn't produced by feces alone or urine alone. It is created by a chemical reaction when the urea in cow urine mixes with urease enzyme present in cow feces on the barn floor.
So if they mix, they create the gas.
Exactly. The cow toilet is a physical device that stimulates the cow to urinate in a specific stall, capturing the urine and storing it completely separately from the solid feces. By physically intercepting that mixture, it stops the chemical reaction from ever occurring. It reduces farm ammonia emissions by up to a staggering 1/3. As government environmental regulations around air quality tighten, this kind of structural intervention will become mandatory.
Moving back inside the cow's biology, Elanco has acquired a company called AHV International. They utilize something called quorum sensing technology.
This is revolutionary immunology. Bacteria communicate with each other. When they sense a threat, like an antibiotic, they coordinate and secrete a protective slime layer called a biofilm. They hide inside this film, rendering standard antibiotics ineffective.
Yeah, so if we look at AHV International's tech, are they basically using plant extracts to strip the camouflage off the bacteria, like preventing them from communicating and hiding?
You've hit the nail on the head. Quorum sensing effectively jams the bacteria's communication signals. AHV's plant-derived extracts disrupt the formation of this biofilm, forcing the pathogens out into the open. Once exposed, the cow's own natural immune system, specifically the white blood cells, can effectively hunt them down and fight them off. The ultimate goal here is severely reducing the dairy industry's reliance on broad-spectrum antibiotics, fighting antimicrobial resistance.
For the beef sector, there is some incredibly encouraging data coming out of the Teagask Newford Suckler farm in Ireland. Over 8 years of rigorous study, their steers and heifers have consistently achieved ideal Arcus conformation and a 3-VFAT score at 18 to 22 months of age. And they're doing this entirely off grass-based diets.
That data is vital because it proves the long-term profitability of sustainable, low-input suckler-to-beef production. By utilizing highly fertile maternal cows and crossing them with high genetic merit 5-star terminal AI sires, they produce fast-growing calves. These animals reach strict supermarket processing specifications, relying almost entirely on grazed grass and high-quality silage. It drastically reduces the farmer's reliance on incredibly expensive imported concentrate grain feeds, lowering the overall cost of production while maintaining premium output.
Whether you are dairy or beef, you still have to manage the waste. Hundreds of animals produce thousands of tons of slurry. We see some heavy-duty marketplace solutions to handle this. Storth Machinery is heavily advertising the launch of their King Cobra chopper pump.
The benefit of the King Cobra is brute force reliability in the face of changing regulations. Because of government environmental grants, farmers have had to build much larger slurry lagoons to hold waste over the winter when spreading is banned. As this slurry sits for 6 months, it forms an incredibly thick, fibrous crust. Standard pumps just choke and break on it.
Right, they just clog up.
The King Cobra features aggressive chopping blades that tear through this heavy material, homogenizing it without blocking. It saves the farmer hours of deeply frustrating, filthy downtime.
And once it's pumped, AL Agri is advertising Landia slurry mixers and applicators.
The benefit of Landia equipment is consistency. If your sly lagoon isn't mixed properly, you spread thin water on Monday and thick sludge on Tuesday. A Landia mixer creates a perfectly homogeneous liquid. This means you get a highly consistent, predictable spread of nitrogen and phosphorus across your fields, which is absolutely essential if you are using low-emission precision application systems like trailing shoes to meet environmental targets.
All of this complex agronomy and intensive livestock management requires serious physical horsepower. You have to move the feed, pull the sprayers, and transport the animals. But the fundamental definition of power on the farm is shifting at lightning speed toward electric and alternative fuels. Let's look at the rise of the electric workhorse. The introduction of the Isuzu D-Max EV is framed as a massive moment for the industry.
It genuinely is a milestone. Historically, electric pickup trucks have been designed as urban lifestyle vehicles. They were heavy, low to the ground, and couldn't tow. But the D-Max EV is built for the farm. It retains the legally required 3.5-ton towing capacity, a full 1-ton bed payload, and maintains 210 millimeters of rough terrain ground clearance. It boasts a WLTP range of 163 miles.
Hold on, I have to push back hard on that number. 163 miles of WLTP range usually means maybe 110 miles in the real world. If I am hauling a massive triaxle trailer full of pregnant ewes up a steep hill in February with the heater blasting to defrost the windshield, that 163 miles becomes what? 60 miles?
Yeah.
50 miles? If there's no fast charger in the rural village, I am completely stranded with livestock on the side of the road. Is this actually viable for a working contractor?
That is the exact debate happening in farmyards right now. Range anxiety under heavy towing loads is a very real mathematical constraint, and the public fast-charging infrastructure in deep rural areas is frankly abysmal. The D-Max EV is undeniably a massive leap forward in mechanical capability. The motors have the torque to pull the weight. But you are right. For now, its ideal use case isn't the long-distance contractor.
So who is it for?
It is the back-to-base state manager or the localized dairy farmer whose daily mileage is highly predictable, who never leaves a 20-mile radius, and who can plug it into a dedicated fast charger at the workshop every single night.
It's an evolution, not an instant revolution. But the innovation in EVs isn't just in the powertrain, it's in the chassis design. Look at the Ferrazon SV electric van. They recently won the Best Technical Innovation Award, purely because of how they redesigned the doors, featuring a hidden B-pillar.
By structurally integrating the B-pillar, the central vertical roof support, into the passenger door itself, they have created a massive, unobstructed 2.1-meter side opening on the L3 model.
That's a game changer for loading.
The benefit here is unparalleled physical access. A forklift can drive right up to the side of the van and load bulky, oversized cargo or heavy pallets directly into the side doors. It fundamentally changes how a commercial van can be utilized in a tight, busy farmyard where rear access might be blocked.
The sheer influx of hybrid and EV options across the pages of this magazine is staggering. We have the MG ZS Hybrid Plus winning Value Awards, the heavily updated Nissan Ariya, and the BYD ATT03 EVO boasting an upgraded 316-mile range. There's the Aion V claiming 317 miles, the Volvo EX60 finally starting full production, the quirky retro-styled Renault 4 E-Tech Plain Sud with an electric canvas roof, and the Renault Master taking home the Van of the Year title.
It signals a complete irreversible paradigm shift in manufacturing. The automotive giants are flooding the commercial and utility market with battery, electric, and hybrid solutions, but traditional heavy haulage is also exploring alternative fuels. The Openfield Group, a massive green cooperative, is currently trialing bio-CNG, which is compressed natural gas, in a fleet of Scania HGVs for grain transport.
Does natural gas actually offer a benefit over diesel for heavy trucks?
A massive one. The trials are showing a 30 to 40% sheer fuel cost saving compared to traditional diesel. And because it is derived from biomethane, it drastically cuts the carbon emissions of the transport logistics chain, which helps the entire agricultural sector meet its net zero targets.
On the much smaller end of the scale, the vehicles farmers use to zip around the fields, the ATVs and UTVs are rapidly evolving. Polaris is rolling out the Ranger 500 targeting accessible utility, and their high-end Pro XP Ultimate now comes with street-legal tractor homologation right from the factory.
And we have to note that CF Moto is absolutely dominating this ATV market right now. The reason is their business model regarding standard specification. Features that other brands charge thousands of pounds extra for, like heavy-duty winches, tow bars, independent rear suspension, and full road-legal lighting kits are included out of the box on a CF Moto.
Oh, that's really smart.
This protects the used resale value immensely because secondhand buyers highly prize those exact utility features.
We also see the Corvus Terrain DX4 and DX2, heavily highlighted for severe, heavy off-road forestry and agricultural work. In the world of big tractors, corporate consolidation is happening. SMTGB has acquired Kyoto UK to bring their distribution and technical support fully in-house. Case IH's Puma series is sweeping up design awards specifically for its enhanced cab comfort, and New Holland has launched the T7 standard wheelbase, highlighting its connective flow design.
With all this incredibly complex, expensive new machinery hitting the market, optimizing what you already own is a vital financial strategy. That's exactly where the advert for Avon Tuning HD comes into play. They specialize in ECU remapping for existing tractors and 4x4s.
Remapping the engine control unit.
Yeah.
What is the practical benefit for the farmer?
The benefit of Avon Tuning is unlocking the engine's artificially restricted, untapped potential. Manufacturers often use the exact same engine block across a range of models, electronically detuning the cheaper ones. By professionally remapping the computer, farmers can safely unlock better fuel efficiency and significantly increase torque and towing power from their existing fleet.
So they don't have to buy a new tractor.
Exactly. It is a highly cost-effective, immediate alternative to taking on debt to buy a brand new, more powerful tractor.
And to make sure all that newly unlocked torque actually transfers to the ground without destroying the expensive soil underneath, we look at the Ascenso Tires advert. They are offering premium VF very high flexion tires backed by an impressive 5 to 7 year warranty.
The physics of VF tires are crucial. The benefit is that the highly flexible sidewalls allow the tire to run at much lower pressures while carrying heavy loads. This creates a significantly larger, longer contact patch with the ground.
Right, spreads the weight.
Exactly. A larger footprint decreases wheel slippage, which saves expensive diesel, and critically, it spreads the weight of the machine, vastly reducing deep soil compaction that ruins crop yields.
Keeping all this high-tech kit clean and maintained is a relentless daily chore. W. Bateman & Co. are advertising Celarc and ABAC air compressors and heavy-duty pressure washers.
The benefit here is maximizing machinery longevity and maintaining absolute biosecurity. Industrial high-power pressure washers are completely essential for those strict biosecurity washdowns we talked about when moving between farms. And heavy-duty air compressors are vital for blowing out chaff from combine radiators to prevent devastating harvest fires and for maintaining exact tire pressures for those VF tires, which prevents blowouts and costly downtime.
For the handheld tools around the farmyard, Kramer Tools has a very aggressive 82V battery offer. Buy a professional electric tool and a battery, get a second battery completely free.
This is a smart market penetration strategy. It provides a highly cost-effective transition pathway for estate managers who want to move away from noisy, vibrating, polluting two-stroke petrol strimmers and chainsaws. By giving away the second battery, they double the operator's runtime immediately, proving that high-performance electric landscaping tools can survive a full commercial workday.
We also have a notable cluster of regional machinery experts advertising their services: FarmStar, AgriFit, FlowGrow, and Bavenhill. They're specifically offering sprayer testing and machinery support.
The benefit they provide is strict legal compliance and chemical efficiency. The Sustainable Use Directive, or SUD, legally requires mandatory annual testing for any sprayer over 3 meters wide. Utilizing these certified independent testers ensures farmers remain legally compliant and avoid massive government fines. More importantly, it ensures their sprayer nozzles aren't worn out, which prevents them from over-applying and wasting 525 pound-a-ton chemicals.
And for buying and servicing all this complex equipment, local, rapid support is everything. JPM Agri, Compass Tractors, and Brian Robinson Machinery are advertising heavily as regional independent dealerships.
The benefit of the local independent dealer is rapid, localized personal support. When a highly complex, computer-driven combine harvester goes down on a Thursday afternoon during a critical harvest weather window, you absolutely cannot wait a week for a corporate technician to drive down from a central hub. You need a trusted local dealer who stocks the parts and can have a mechanic in your field within an hour. It's about minimizing catastrophic downtime.
Finally, in the machinery realm, we have Claas advertising their popular Arion 600 and 500 tractors, sitting alongside an advert for the new 4th-generation M404 Euro V tractor.
The primary benefit highlighted by both the premium Claas and the new M404 is pure operator ergonomics. The M404 specifically boasts expanded floor space, and engineers have reduced the physical control force required to operate the levers by 20%.
Which matters when you're in there all day.
Exactly. When operators are sitting in a vibrating glass box for 14 hours a day during harvest, reducing their physical fatigue through meticulous ergonomic design directly improves their concentration, safety, and overall daily productivity.
Okay, that brings us perfectly to the final piece of the puzzle. We've talked about global policies, the chemistry of fertilizers, the biology of cows, and the torque of electric trucks. But what about the human being actually sitting in that ergonomic cab? Let's talk about the culture, the mindset of the industry, the human element. Let's start with the events that bring them all together. Cereals 2026, the premier arable event, is happening at Diddley Squat Farm, famously hosted by Jeremy Clarkson and Caleb Cooper.
It's brilliant marketing, but there is real substance beneath the celebrity. Caleb Cooper makes a very astute, highly traditional agronomic point regarding their new livestock zone at the event. He highlights the integration of livestock onto an arable farm as a vital mechanism to spread financial risk. If the global wheat price crashes due to Russian yields, having a profitable beef enterprise on the same farm balances the books.
It's just old school mixed farming, isn't it?
It is a powerful reminder that traditional mixed farming provides a level of crucial economic resilience that extreme monoculture simply cannot match.
And right in the middle of the cereals coverage, we have an advert for Nick Young Tractor Parts, who happen to be the headline sponsors of Caleb's Corner, featuring interactive tractor simulator challenges.
Beyond the entertainment value of a simulator, the fundamental benefit of a company like Nick Young Tractor Parts is operational affordability. Not every single farmer can afford to take out a 150,000-pound loan for a brand new, warranty-backed tractor. By providing reliable, highly affordable replacement parts, they allow farmers to keep older legacy machinery running efficiently.
So they don't have to take on all that debt.
Right, allowing them to operate and farm without taking on crushing levels of new debt in a high interest rate environment.
Looking north to Scotland, the Royal Highland Show is making a major cultural statement by launching its first ever sustainable agriculture tent, representing a massive coalition of over 3,000 Scottish farmers and crofters.
It is a massive, incredibly important collaborative hub. The narrative often dictated from the top down is that agriculture is the enemy of the environment. This tent flips that narrative. They are proactively showcasing how smaller-scale hill producers and larger lowland estates alike are actively, practically responding to the climate and biodiversity crises.
It shows it's a grassroots movement.
It proves that the transition to sustainable agroecology is being led from the ground up by the farmers themselves using indigenous knowledge and modern science.
And we also see the varied reality of modern farming culture playing out across the pages. On a lighter, more eccentric note, the Rugg estate famously painted their massive bison statue bright gold to publicly celebrate receiving their royal warrant from King Charles III. It's a great touch of rural humor and immense pride sitting right there on the side of the A5 highway. But on a much deeper, more critical level, we have a phenomenal piece of insight from Rebecca Wilson, reflecting on the UN Year of Women in Agriculture.
Her analysis is profoundly honest, and it cuts through a lot of industry PR. She meticulously dissects the exhausting pressure placed on modern farmers to constantly perform innovation and sustainability for the public eye, contrasting it against the gritty, deeply unglamorous reality of sheer daily endurance.
Yeah, the real day-to-day grind.
Furthermore, she tackles the often taboo topic of inheritance and network privilege, pointing out how access to family land and inherited capital shapes a person's opportunity in agriculture far more than the industry likes to openly admit.
I read her piece and I thought of this analogy. It sounds like society is asking farmers to be the physical shock absorbers for the entire global food system. The geopolitical shocks hit, the climate shocks hit, and the farmer is supposed to absorb the impact so the consumer doesn't feel the bump at the supermarket. But looking at these 69,000-pound losses, it feels like the suspension is finally bottoming out.
That is a brutally accurate analogy. The suspension is shattering. She specifically warns against the profound danger of expecting young farmers to endlessly absorb massive policy shifts, devastating market crashes, and relentless climate stress under the noble guise of being resilient.
Right, because resilience is treated like a magic word.
Exactly. Resilience is a great trait, but it cannot become a convenient excuse for governments and supply chains to withdraw financial support while expecting individual human beings to carry the crushing weight of global uncertainty entirely alone.
So what does this all ultimately mean? Let's pull all these threads together and summarize what we've learned from this incredibly deep dive into the May 2026 issue. The near future for UK farmers heading into 2027 is definitively characterized by high, relentless volatility. We are staring down impending severe oil shocks, extreme weather events, completely mysterious subsidy shifts, and violently crashing commodity prices.
Yet simultaneously, the tools and the science available to adapt to these crises are unprecedented in human history. From AI-driven milk sensors and biological organo-mineral fertilizers to electric workhorses and digital grain cooling networks. And as we've seen by dissecting the magazine, the adverts on these pages aren't just companies selling metal and chemicals, they are actively selling resilience.
They really are.
They are providing the exact physical levers a farmer needs to pull to survive these cash flow valleys, labor shortages, and tightening environmental regulations.
Exactly. It's a catalog of survival. But I want to leave you, the listener, with one final, slightly provocative thought to ponder as we wrap up. We've looked at technologies like the Hanscamp cow toilet, optical potato sorters that use AI, robotic milkers that text you a medical diagnosis, and sprayers that drive themselves. The physical, backbreaking, dirty labor of farming is undeniably decreasing. But does this massive technological wall actually risk disconnecting the farmer from the very soul of the job?
That's the big question.
From the touch of the soil and the behavior of the animal. Do they risk turning into just another data manager, staring at a flashing screen in a sterile office? As we march forward into 2027, the ultimate challenge might not just be physically growing the food, but remembering what it actually feels like to be a farmer.
It brings us full circle right back to where we started with your X-ray analogy. The diagnostic landscape has radically moved. We are no longer looking at the animal shivering in the field. We are looking at a line graph on a screen.
Navigating the highly technical, incredibly muddy waters of modern agriculture. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the information, keep looking for the mechanisms behind the headlines, and we will catch you next time.